You tell me, what do you think? Would you pay $5 for this bedroom?
I could be lying to y'all right now and be like, hi, my name's Devin Anderson. Look at this YouTube channel. Installing vinyl floors is not as hard as people make it look. It's actually really easy. Come on, let's take a look. No, it's not. This is hard, okay? And none of this is flat, so it makes it even harder. And this is the cheapest material we could probably find at a damn store, so that makes it even harder too. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm losing my cool, man. About had it. About had it. Enough is enough. This shit for the fucking birds, bro. This click like vinyl bullshit, man. This floor. Boy, howdy, man. I'm done. You got me in a tizzy. But it looks all right so far. We are going to run this flat casing, and we're going to leave enough room for a flat bar at the top, a horizontal bar underneath that, creating a crown molding effect. And we don't have to miter anything, which is my favorite part.
I didn't want to go with mitered edges because I think it just looks too standard.
This was a big problem throughout the entire project, including with the baseboard. I recommend to just get a grinder and really go after that stucco to get it out of the friggin' way, dude.
This one's a bit weird. We need some casing that is half this length, so I think you can put it together what we're about to do here. I was going to use the saw, but that seems a little dangerous. And now we have, what is this? 1.125" quarter rounding. Sure, whatever. It's wanting me to, it being AI, to overhang this and this by a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch off the side of these two. Bringing this, oh, my house of cards is going to fall. Right there. But as you may be able to see, that's where all my ugly is. Let me trim this board and see what happens. BRB. Can't do it that way specifically because of this corner over here. Ain't no sense in making this harder than it already is. I'm new to this. So this is what it looks like.
Some people may flame me in the comments for this, but I decided to throw in that extra piece at the top after this part of the video. I just like the triple step of the quote-unquote crown molding a little bit more than the 2-step, just because it looks more refined. It looks like it has a little bit more complexity. Everything's in this room is going to be bland and just standard as possible, so I went for as much character with the window and the trim as possible. That way it would kind of offset it and you wouldn't be staring at the FRP as much. You'd be looking at the actual windows and the crown molding. So
now switch. Everybody clap your hands. $78.91. Remember that. Damn. Ow! Damn, sorry. 3? So simple, yet so elegant. I'm getting pretty good at that.
This may have been operator error, but I had a terrible time dealing with this Ryobi nailer. It ran out of battery really quickly. If it went lower than 2 bars, it would stop working. It jammed a lot.
Oop, missed that one a little bit.
It didn't want to feed. If you hold the safety down too long, it won't shoot a nail. It was cheap. It was cheap. That's all I can say.
These boards are identical in length. That gives you a rough idea of how big this gap is from back there to there. This one's short, and that one is way too long. Oh, my arms are tired. My back hurts. I want to take a nap. Scoot. Why does everything have a sticker? Whoops. Yeah.
Couple of things here. First, always buy way more trim than you need because you can always bring it back. 1. 2, buy more than that because you're probably going to need it, especially if you're doing a larger job. Or just do a better job at measuring than I did. Just be better than me. The next thing is I handmade this crown molding. I probably could have went with just a traditional crown molding style and just nailed it at the top. I'm an idiot. And this is spare part assembly at the end of the day. So we took some spare parts and we made something very nice out of it. It did turn out really, really well. So what I did was I took that same stuff that we used for the window, the casing, and I cut the casing in half. You put the casing flat, and then you take the half casing, you lay that lateral on top of it, finger joint, and you lay that on top, and you nail all of them together. It gives you this crown molding effect. Go through and caulk the seams, and then paint it, and it all comes through as this cohesive crown molding. I'll likely put some stuff on the screen to give you kind of a comparison to what it would be like to buy crown molding versus make your own. There's a part of me that thinks that making your own would have been cheaper, but who knows at the end of the day. Okay, so this is not the best way to do this, but it is pretty effective. So it turned out really, really well, and we used those little square blocks, and we did that so we could hide our screws and our joints between the FRP. So it was kind of a necessary evil to have those blocks in there, but it does give it some character, and it gives it a little bit of depth. I think it worked out. It's not the best way to do anything. It never is on Spare Part. That's not why you came. You came to figure out how to do something quick, cheap, and easy, and learn to create solutions to problems that no one has ever had before. You're welcome.
We need to figure out how deep our windowsill is going to be. We don't want it to stick out 6 inches. It'd look weird. Look like a ducktail or something. Duckbill. We're going to have this casing going all the way up the side. And then we're going to have a piece of our 1x6 down here. And it needs to fit in here. But we need to figure out how deep it goes past our exterior jamb or sill, and that way we have enough board to go in and over the jamb. You see what I'm saying? And it doesn't go all the way to the rough opening. It goes to where your piece of MDF is going to be. You got it? Got it? Good.
I know I explained that about as clear as mud, but we're going to put the face on the window rough opening. That's why I'm holding that board there. That's going to be the actual depth of the window sill itself. Then you need to add an overhang. So 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, however large you want your window sill overhang past the frame of the window itself. Then you put 2 pieces of casing, the casing that you're going to use to case the window. You measure from front case to front case, left to right. That's the width. So that gives you the little dovetail that we're about to make on this windowsill. Then you'll take a measurement on the outside edge of each one of your window frames, the casing that's going to go and frame the outside and cover those screws. You add 1.5 inches, and that is going to give you your overhang width to get a 3/4 inch overhang left to right on your window frame. Got it? Cool.
Now we cut. Since I don't have a miter saw or a table saw of any kind, I'm going to be cutting depth first, and then we'll cut our length. I also don't have any friends, so length is going to be your friend here. If you're like me, it's going to be your only friend. So you want to cut it a bit thicker than you need, or longer than you need, because you can trim. They don't make board stretchers, contrary to popular belief. And this should be our sill. We probably had to take a little bit off there. Yep, we're a little fat back here. But that's fine. Fat is better than skinny. That's what your mom tells me anyway. Beautiful. Now we have to cut our notches.
To measure your overhang notches, what I do is I put the sill in the rough opening all the way edge to edge. That way your interior casing or framing on the interior of the window comes down and touches the top of the sill board. To clarify here, you want to measure from your window to the frame MDF that sits on the outside of the window. So you measure from the window itself to that MDF, and then add 3/4 inch for your overhang past the MDF. Then you measure from reveal line, which is the outside of the frame from the left to the right, and you add 1.5 inches to that measurement. That gives you your overall depth and width with a 3/4 inch overhang for each one. And then you just cut out the notch. Like you can see here, I'm scribbling all of this out. That's where you're going to be cutting to give you those little bitty overhangs, and it's just going to jut out just past your MDF just a little bit to give you that depth and a bunch of shadow lines, which looks really good.
We measured from the center of our sill, which is 24 inches left to right. So we do 12 inches in the center. Then you measure center of this board. That way you can line them up. You put in your jamb mock-up and you find where your reveal line is going to be in here. That gives you your interior depth. Once you get your center line, you mark from where this is going to be, draw your line here, and that gives you your left to right notch on both sides. You do that on both sides. Measure from the inside of your mock-up from the edge of the sill to the edge of this. What that does is gives you the depth of your notch. Measuring left to right gives you the width of your notch. Measuring front to back gives you the depth of your notch. You can transfer that here. What you're going to run into is your sill likely isn't perfect 90 at each side. I'm going to cut this on the inside of this line, leaving a little bit of extra space here. That way, if we have to do any adjustments, we can just take a piece of sandpaper or something like that and make this nice and flush and perfect. We don't have a miter saw or a table saw, so again, we're going to be cutting this with a traditional circular saw, and it's going to end up with a jagged line like this, but this is a good way to do this without a table saw or a miter. Alrighty then, perfection. I am in way over my head. Go figure. Our casing. I'm measuring from top to bottom to fit a board in here. And then I'm going to take whatever this is times 2. That's a weird number. 9/16. Hey Google, what's 9/16 times 2?
So if you want to do this the faster way and the less idiotic way, I found that you don't really need to put the sill together before you put it in the jam. You could just take your 2 pieces of casing on the vertical sides, the left and the right of the rough opening, go ahead and nail those into the rough opening, measure between them, get your exact measurement there, take your cut that you get for the top piece, and then throw the top piece in there, nail it to the windowsill, and you don't have to do any of this extra fraction stupid junk that I'm doing right now. There's a little cheat code for you. My mistakes are your come-ups. You're welcome.
What do y'all think of that, huh? That's the interior done. Now all we have to do is nail it together outside of the frame and then put our trim pieces on. Pretty good. Pretty good. Now that we have it kind of lightly together, let's test fit before we get too ambitious and rambunctious. That is pretty darn good if you ask me. Look at there.
As you can see, we've got our 2 pieces of our window framing installed here, and that's just running up the edge of the sill, from the sill to the top at the reveal line, so that way it marries nice and easy and you get that same shadow line from the sides to the top. And keep in mind, all of this was done so I didn't have to do any miters. Feel like miters would have been easier at this point, but this is going to look really good in my opinion. What we're going to do is we're going to take some of this little trim piece, it's like a doorstop finger jam kind of thing from Home Depot. We're going to lay that at the top at our reveal line, leaving just a little shadow line from the interior casing, and then put a board at the top of it, so that way it gives you this like above builder grade style window sill. So you have a little bit of artistic design in there, and it's really easy, and you don't really have to do a whole lot. So this is a pretty easy way to not have to make it perfect at the edges, and you can come through with just a regular circular saw. As you can see, I'm doing all of this with a circular saw, and it's making it look really good because all you have to do is cut one straight line. You don't have to cut 45-degree angles or anything like that. So this is a really, really good option for a DIY project, specifically because if you don't have the tool, all you need is one circular saw, which you can find typically on Facebook Marketplace for like 30, 40 bucks. Hope that helps. 2 major things to pay attention to in this. First, I'm taking a compound square at 1/4 inch and running it around the interior of this windowsill. Now, why am I doing that? It's called a reveal line, and it's how I'm lining up the frame face to the casing face. If you're pretty good with your natural eye, you can typically call that out. This is a pretty army-proof way of making sure that you get that line perfect every time. The next thing that you need to pay attention to is the transition between the 2 clips here. That's the 2-step crown molding versus the 3-step crown molding. And I think that one little piece of wood makes such a huge difference in its complexity, and it's so simple to add it. All you do is you measure what you already have cut and you nail it in, make sure that it's got the proper overhang. Just make sure it's pretty close. It doesn't have to be perfect. Again, it's handcrafted. It's artisanal. It can be a little off, but I think that one little addition made this project look so much better. If you had any nails sticking out, I used a pair of alternate lifestyle cutters. Some people like to call them dikes to clip the nails, and then I used a hammer to hit them flush, and maybe even a punch to push the nail in a little bit past the wood. And then you go behind and you take a little bit of Alex Plus caulk on all of your nail holes and things like that. Just sand that down and throw a coat of paint on it, and it'd be a little good, you know what I'm saying? Something as a DIYer that you're most likely going to run into is the same exact issue that I've ran into here. You don't have a big enough truck to put 17-foot boards in. There's something called a butt joint. Yeah, go on ahead. Get it out. Laugh. But I said it. But again, what I did here, I think, was a little innovative. I have 3 boards that I have to marry in this situation. One of them is going to reveal it much more than the other 2. I had a piece long enough to go just past the slider at the top, that finger joint. Then I took the piece of half of our casing, that quarter round type stuff, which is the second step in our crown molding. Then we have our full piece of casing. That's going to translate that joint more than any other piece. What I could have done was used a board long enough to get to that joint that you see right here on my right side, that would have been real smart, because then I could have just hit it behind one of those blocks and you never would have saw it. Well, I'm not that smart and I didn't think that far ahead. In this case, I cut a 45 to the left and then a 45 to the right. I don't know how I would have done this without a miter saw, and not effectively anyway, because those two joints have to meet together as good as possible. That way it doesn't translate that line to the naked eye. That thin piece of finger joint is offset, so that way it doesn't translate it all the way throughout the entire board, and it's a piece that I already had laying around. So I just cut the boards to length that I needed, put that 45 in there for the larger piece of casing in the front, that face piece. I took the flat board there and just put caulk in it, sanded it down kind of like Bondo, and then that's exactly what I did for the finger joint as well. So I just married those, the big casing piece in the front with a 45 butt joint, put some caulk on top of it and in between it, so that way it had some protrusion, and I built up a little bit of a face on it with some caulk, kind of like Bondo, and then sanded it down. That way the paint would cover it. Remember, caulk and paint makes me the carpenter I ain't, just like a grinder and paint will make me the welder I ain't. The main takeaway of all of this is paint is your friend. I'd also like to add here that this is not editing magic. I really actually measured that like 10 times. Yeah, I'm not proud of it.
So that's how today's gonna go, huh?
Even as I'm editing this, I have no clue how these things stayed up there. Your guess is as good as mine. As far as this gap at the end, we'll call that an expansion gap. Yep.
All right, so our primary focus now is going to be to do the jambs of our slider here. And how I'm going to do that is a little bit different than I've done the windows, but in the same theory. So instead of having a large piece on the outside flush and flat with a 1/4 inch gap on a reveal, we're going to create a reveal and then flush up on the outside rather than flush up on the inside with the 1/4 inch gap.
The big issue that I was having with the slider is the way that the slider's sitting inside the jamb is much different than the way the window's sitting inside the jamb. They both sit on the face of the frame, but the window is much thinner than the slider is. So the slider eats up a lot more of that interior space of the jamb, so you have a lot less space to work with. You could have put a piece of quarter rounding right there, but I still think that would have been its own problem, just because I don't think it would have been flush with the outside of the wall, and it probably wouldn't have married very well with the casing or trim that I was putting around it. So what I ended up doing was probably over-engineered, as everything I do is. I used a piece of the casing and it was cut in half. So that gave us enough to put on the interior of the slider jamb to bite onto. So we put our casing on top of that and then put that piece of finger round or finger finish or whatever the heck it's called, the fingerboard, around the interior of it, and that's what we used to build our frame for the inside of the slider. It's definitely not how everyone does it, but again, it was just spare parts we had laying around. So we ended up putting that fingerboard all the way around the interior, except for on the bottom. We used actual quarter rounding on the bottom, and we spaced it out just a bit so it would marry very well with the base of the slider and the casing that was coming out. So it's not a perfect round shape. It's got a bit of a shadow line there, but I think it turned out pretty well. There's no right or wrong way to do trim, in my opinion. It's all personal preference. So as long as you think it looks good, then it is good. You know what I'm saying? Know what I'm talking about? For those of you with high attention to detail, you'll notice that we're moving on to flooring. In the spot that I'm grinding, we had a major high spot. There's about a 15-degree slope on this particular portion of concrete. We didn't level it perfectly. We just knocked down some of the high spots. We were going to do some concrete patch and try to level it as well as possible. I'm new to this, and I didn't want to create more problems for myself or the homeowner, so we decided against it. Ultimately, it could have been better for the flooring. It would have taken a lot of concrete patch to or concrete leveler to be able to do that. So we decided against it. Got it pretty flat, and that's the major part whenever you're using this click lock style flooring, and got most of it flat so it would be as easy as possible. Was it a professional job? No. But again, we weren't paying attention to detail here. We were just trying to get it done.
As many of you may have guessed, I'm not going to do this perfectly. But we're going to do it pretty good. Homeowner wants it done now, not right. We've got a little bit of grit on the floor, but not too much, you know? All right, I'll stop. It says I don't need to fill the expansion gaps. We waited too long with our primer to do the concrete filler, so we're not going to do it. I think this will work out because we're pretty flat, and it saves the homeowner time and money, and he wants it done now, not right. If we come into some issues, I'll fix it. Good? Everybody happy? Okay. I think I'm going to sweep one more time because the vacuums suck. Yeah, holy crap, those vacuums suck. Not in a good way either.
Your main focus when you're doing flooring, especially the click lock style flooring, is you need flat, not level, and you need to have no grit, sand, dust, or any material on the floor underneath your click lock flooring.
So AI is suggesting something that's a little risky. Since we don't have a straight wall on either side, it's saying snap a chalk line in the middle. And this is our start line. Now, that can get risky.
The reason that it's having us do that is because we don't have a perfectly straight wall. As much as I enjoy how good I did this construction, I don't think I did it perfect. I don't know that I could use this as a proper guide, the wall that I did, because this one's recessed and it's like very wobbly. While this one's mildly straight, I'd have to cut so do I just run it from the middle? I'm gonna have to cut those anyway. Bob Saget. Okay, let's see, let's do some measuring.
So after a lot of back and forth, measuring, subtracting, adding, all of everything that I could try to find a perfect center for this room, none of it worked out very well. So with the construction of the stucco wall, it's a spray on, so it's not perfectly level. And the wall itself, especially at the slider recession, it's not perfectly flat or straight. And neither is my wall. I mean, I've never done any of this before, so I couldn't find a perfect center for this room. Our main focus is trying to make sure that the boards are straight across the room, no matter how crooked any wall is. Now, we probably could have went with one of the shorter walls, but it's much easier to install this click lock flooring the long way. You know what I'm talking about? I snapped a chalk line in the center and then tried to install it along that, and then took a look, and it was very badly, grossly, egregiously crooked. So what I ended up doing was I started putting it against the stucco wall, but that wall's so crooked that I ended up having to adjust my flooring anyway, and I did it by eye. It's not something I recommend. If you have a flat wall that you can go off of, I recommend that to be your anchor wall. And if you don't, then try to find something else that you can guide off of. That's basically what I did here. I found that the slider wall was a little crooked, but I was able to use the snap line in the middle to kind of guide myself on what was straight. So then I just made an eye adjustment after putting some of the flooring down and moved the entire floating floor and adjusted it, and then went back and fixed my gaps later. So everything was nice and straight and flush. I don't know if you can see it here in the video, but this line is not straight, and it would have made it much harder because I would have had to have offset from the center plank to the right side of the planks. You don't want any less than 3 inches for this click lock flooring because it gets unstable. It causes weak joints. It's just all bad. So I would have had to have accounted for that on the left side of this line and the right side of this line, all while trying to keep it straight. It's not for a beginner. If you have some good lines, reference lines to go off of, then maybe. But as a beginner, it's not friendly.
So we got 2 3/4 over there. Let's move it a 1/2 inch this way. That gives us, or we can move it 3/4 of an inch. And that gives us 3 1/2 over there and 3 1/4 over here. We're already at 3 inches there, so that's perfect. We'll have to cut a little gap out. So if you can see over here, it dips under the slider and we have exactly 3 inches over there.
You see what I mean? I haven't even started yet and I'm already confused and I have no confidence in what I'm doing. So I have 3 inches on one side, 2 1/2 on the other, and I'm not supposed to be under 3 on either side. Do I cut a board in half? Like, see what I mean? See what I mean? It's just not beginner friendly. Start on one side, the long wall, just go from there. It's much easier to do that and slide the whole entire floor, in my opinion. Get like 4 or 5 rows deep, move it to where it looks like they're all straight, then adjust your boards that are against your wall. I think that's much, much easier. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to measure from wall to wall, divide that by your boards. I'll throw it on screen exactly what AI told me to do to adjust for the perfect amount of flooring. Just cut your last board a little bit. You're going to have some wonky lines on the final row of planks, but I would rather cut a diagonal line because you can just trace that out. It's much easier to go off of something that's already straight, that you've made straight, than it is to try to find something straight when there's nothing there. You know what I mean?
So this particular flooring, Traffic Master rigid core vinyl plank, Oakwood Terrace, oak 6x48. SKU number is 10103472262. I'll drop a picture of this and a couple other photos of the exact product that we're using, and I'll link it on Amazon as well, if it is on Amazon. But it's saying, it gives you installation instructions. It doesn't say anything about a vapor barrier, but ChatGPT looked it up and said that it does need one. So I just asked this vapor barrier needs to be as tight as possible without stretching right or wrong. I like asking right or wrong to it because it won't just tell you what you want to hear, maybe. So you want it flat, relaxed, no bubbles, no sharp folds, no tension, draped flat, not shrink wrap. So it just needs to be flat.
Boy, howdy. Where do we begin? I'm not one to throw in the towel very often, but I don't think y'all be seeing any more flooring. That's for damn sure. Cause this for the fucking birds, bro. This click like vinyl bullshit, man. This floor. Man, this is bullshit. First of all, the homeowner didn't want to take enough time to level everything out, so now I'm stuck with the hard part of trying to get all this shit to fit together. And then we're gonna turn it around. Ain't none of this shit lining up. I started off doing it the wrong way yesterday because I thought we were supposed to build from one short wall to the other short wall. No, you're supposed to build from long wall to long wall. That pissed me off. Then none of this shit cutting straight. My boards aren't going together. Every little ridge of this son of a bitch is breaking apart. I about damn had it, I swear. Anybody want to buy a YouTube channel? Because boy howdy, man, I'm done. You got me in a tizzy. But yeah, for all you DIYers out there, pay the guy. Just pay the guy. Just pay the guy. He earned it. He earned that shit. Woo! And anytime somebody says, hey, you need to level out or flatten out your subfloor, do it. Man, it's so bad. It is so bad. Oh my God. I told that motherfucker, I was like, we need to level the floor out. And he was like, rah, 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 rah. And it would have taken way too damn long. And I want to get this done. I'm done with it. I'm tired. Tired of being here, y'all. I want to get back to the cart. Bad. So it's not just y'all. I tried using a tile cutter. That didn't work. Go figure. This board is garbage, isn't it? It's driving my nuts, dude. Killing me. It's killing me. I'm tired of it. I won't be here. I want to go home. I want to take a nap. I quit yesterday. I couldn't handle it. I was starting to throw shit. It ain't always easy as they say it is on YouTube. That's for damn sure. Which I knew this was going to be tough, especially because he didn't want to level the motherfucking floor. Because I could be lying to y'all right now and be like, hi, my name's Devin Anderson. Look at this YouTube channel. Installing vinyl floors is not as hard as people make it look. It's actually really easy. Come on, let's take a look. No, it's not. This is hard, okay? And none of this is flat, so that makes it even harder. And this is the cheapest material we could probably find at a damn store, so that makes it even harder too. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm losing my cool, man. I'm not one to get angry like this, but I about had it. Enough is enough. You heard me? Well, it looks all right so far. Okay, my favorite part. It should get easier as we keep going along. I will say that. It should get easier. All I can say is, if you're going to do this in your house, take the time, level the damn floor. Don't level it. Get it flat. Because we took a little bit of a detour on that, and boy, how does it bite me in the ass. So just Flatten the floor. It ain't gotta be level, it's gotta be flat. So no ridges or bumps or valleys or lumps. Thoughts just slide right off. We're making progress, y'all. Maybe this project isn't lost after all. Looks like our lines are straighter. Still not perfect, but you get what you pay for. We're making it happen. We're making something shake something, you know what I'm saying? I'm in a much better mood now. I should probably start bringing food. We are going from 16, 32, 48, and we need 16 here. So we need 16 from the base. 16 from the base is a lot. We have 12 inches back behind it, so we need 16 inches from this corner to continue our stair step. 38 inches, and that's our board here. So it will come out to be, wait, what? I just can't do math, man. 28 inches. Also found that this locks into this 45-degree angle. That's huge. That makes this process so much easier. We need 12 inches behind, giggity, and we need 16 inches in front to continue our stair step. So that's 28 inches total. We're gonna have to cut this gap into it. I'll show you how to do that as well. I'll say this. That first row is a pain, especially if you don't have a good solid straight wall to go off of. That thing's a pain in the ass. But once you're done with that, it's really not too bad. All right, now we need to cut there. So we'll take our straight edge, and that's the corner we need to cut right there. And then we have to figure out how deep to cut. And we need to be, we'll just go here. Because you can always take off, you can't always add. 1.25 inches. So we'll measure 1.25 inches down from here as well. So that's where the corner is gonna be. Then we'll take our compound square. And then we'll take our flat pliers, these little doohickeys, and then you'll just start breaking. Before you break that, put that perfectly in your corner. Bam. Then trim that up if you need. And then toss that wherever it lands. Whoever installed these floors did a great job. Flooring does not end with the flooring. It ends with baseboards. So that's what we're doing. Now, we have a bit of a dilemma here. I don't know how to fix it, other than put a big piece of trim over the front of it, which we don't have. So I'm gonna do a little bit of a no-no. Baseboard's gonna get ran underneath the door jambs. We already cut them, so it's kind of our only option, unless we want it to look extra janky. So we're gonna do this piece of 1/4 round right here to flush everything up at the base of the door. Then we're gonna notch a piece of baseboard, go under here with it, run it under the door jambs, and then through the wall. Sounds good to me. Yep. Instead of measuring, why don't we just use the height of the dang thing and then just draw lines? That's where we need to cut. That's easy. Ow, never cut towards yourself, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see your circular saw do that, Gerald. Had a bit of a brain blast. Run the baseboard down like that. We take this bad boy right chum and put her over the top. Look at that. Huh? No? I think it's all right. That's way easier on me. And I don't even have to notch this thing. O'Reilly's. Holy forkin' shirt balls. This gives us some backing, properly seat our 1/4 round. Catch my drift? And then we put the 1/4 round over that. Beautiful. Yep, that's what's finna happen. That looks pretty good to me. Pretty good to me. Right? Right? I'm gonna get a little creative here. This corner is wider at the base here,
than it is up top. So if we come out too far, it's going to leave a large gap between the top of this and our baseboard. So it's larger here at the base to where we couldn't put our floor than it is up here. I'm going to stick a little bit of stucco patch behind it and hope for the best. May not be perfect, but at least get us closer to what our end goal needs to be. AI suggested to us that we run both of our long walls first. We're gonna have a bit of an issue over here and likely an issue here with the spacing in the flooring. And then here, we're gonna have an issue with the fact that the bottom end of the slider is recessed. Bring that out just a skosh and then figure out if we caulk up top or what our transition is gonna be for that. I think we're just gonna run some baseboard and call it a day. But we may need to put a backer there so we have something to push our baseboard against. We also may just run it in there and call it a day. Only one way to find out. Long story short here, I don't think nails are gonna cut it. And I about broke some stuff. As you can tell, we've been having a time. We had some pretty large issues with the baseboards not exactly wanting to go flush with the wall. I got tired of trying to bring the baseboard to the wall and I brought the wall to the baseboard. I got some stucco patch and then just kind of filled the really large gaps above the baseboard after we got it installed and just kind of tapered it up. So it's gonna be a little bit rounded, but I believe that's gonna be much better than a ½ inch of caulk, essentially. We brought it down to about a ¼ inch, which is still pretty big. Giggity. But we're gonna tape halfway through the caulk and we're gonna paint match the stucco to the stucco patch. That half of the caulk will be one color and then we're gonna peel that tape, take the top of it once that's all dry and come through with the white baseboard paint. So the caulk will be half stucco color, half white. So that way it gives the illusion that that caulk line is much smaller than it actually is. And remember, we're looking for performance, not perfection. If we wanted to make something like that a little bit more perfect, what we would do is we would go through with either a grinder or a belt sander or something like that, and we would make that wall flush about 2.5 inches up. That way, whenever the baseboard goes to meet against it, we would be able to just marry it up against the wall and we wouldn't have those big issues with the gaps. But this was much faster than that, much easier on me, and the homeowner wants it done fast, not fabulous. You get what you pay for at the end of the day. I'm gonna show you all a little cheat code that I figured out. 2 of them actually, and then a rule of thumb to go by. So the rule of thumb is you can run your finger over it and it'll catch your skin. You're going to be able to see that in the paint. We can't grind that down because the nail is much more resistant than the wood. The abrasive material is going to sand down the outside much faster than the nail itself. So we need to push that back a bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the head of this hammer and put it directly on it, on the head of the nail, just like that. And then we're going to take another hammer and just whop it. The middle of the head of the hammer should be at the top of the nail. That way you get the most impact. What you're trying to do is beat that nail into the wall, just like that. You can see there's a hole. So what we do with that, take some wood filler. I'm gonna use some caulk and you put it on a putty knife. You take your putty knife. I like to use one side to spread it, just like that, and then come back through and scrape flat. And see how that hole disappeared? And that's going to save you sanding time too, because if you were to just come through like this, that's going to dry. You're going to have to sand that down. You'll get a nice skim coat. And it helps to have a clean putty knife. Clean one side off completely, and then come through and boom, flat. Mucho bueno. You can do that for any of your holes, giggity. Any of your imperfections that are a divot, you can use this tool for. Anything to fill that hole, giggity. That way you have a nice, clean, smooth surface to paint. And it saves you sanding time, prep time, all that good jazz. Don't forget your PPE. This particular type of PPE is how your mom got that promotion at work and why you have an Xbox. Maybe you should thank the old girl, but maybe not. Maybe not a kiss. But once you get everything pretty well smoothed out, just make sure you go back over with a block and make sure they're nice and flush. I'm using, which I'm sure this is wrong, but I'm using 220. Knocks it down nice and quick, gets everything smooth really fast. That's all we're worried about here. This works for auto body too. All you auto body guys out there know exactly what I'm talking about. And something like this is just like a computer duster. You go through, works, and you just rub the corners.
Giggity.
And it'll pick, your fingertips are going to pick that dust up, and this is going to be able to push it off. And you want to start up top. That way it floats off and down. And that way, whenever you get to the bottom, you don't have to worry about going back to the top. You clean from top to bottom. It's what you do. Okay? Okay? Cheese and rice. The good news is house paint is much more forgiving than auto paint. So we have that on our side. Let's finish taping everything, dusting, and then we can get to paint. For this reason, you want to dust before you tape. I'm going to go over everything with some acetone to degrease it. That way we get a good bond and we don't have to worry about any paint peeling or any of that junk. I'm going to do that now, and then we can find ourselves taping, putting our drop cloth down, and finally paint. We're almost done, boys and girls. That brings us to a wrap. But before we leave, we've got to see it with blinds and a little bit of decor. For the amount of money that we have in this project, it was about $2,500 to frame it, sheath it with the FRP, and do the outside trim. The inside trim, floors, paint, and just all the finishing materials on the inside, I think was another $1,500 roughly. It could be a little bit less than that. All in all, I think we're under $5,000 for this entire bedroom, completely finished out. I don't think you can get too much better than that, people. You tell me, what do you think? Would you pay $5,000 for this bedroom? I think it looks pretty darn good. Thank you for watching Spare Part. You are enough. We want you to come back, so hit the subscribe button and the bell icon. Share it to a family member who needs this project done. If you have any questions on how we built this or how we get an AI model to give you an instruction sheet on how to build all of this stuff, just drop it in the comments. If you're in Las Vegas, reach out to us. Maybe we can help you with a project that you're looking at.